Hi, welcome back to whoever is listening. I'm very happy to be here and be recording once again. I know that it's been a long time, but I've had quite some time to reflect upon so many things, and I guess that's growth. Today's topic is I feel like this is something that every girl, especially girls, has gone through. And it's the thought of, he's not all that. You know, your brain makes people more important than they should be. And I'm not saying that you should not care about people, but I'm saying learn the way your brain works, the way you attach to people, and then rationalize those feelings. I don't say this in a dismissive, bitter, like whatever, he sucks kind of way, but in the most grounded and human way possible, because we've all experienced this at least once. That one person who suddenly feels bigger than life, like they change something in you, like your chest tightens just thinking about walking away, letting go of them. It's so scary to think that you have to let go of them more than staying, even if it doesn't feel fully right. And then you start wondering, like, what is it about them? Like, what's so special? Why can I compare them to anyone else? Like, what is going on? Why am I terrified at the thought of losing them? And most of the time, it's not that they're extraordinary or that they're just the best thing in the world. It's just that your brain got attached at a very specific moment. And that's what brings you best. It builds like a story to protect you. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Your brain's not trying to be romantic. It's trying to keep you safe, or at least keep you from feeling unstable. And once you have invested time, emotion, hope, identity into someone, your brain really doesn't want to accept that it might not work out. And because if it didn't work out, you would have to face the uncertainty, the disappointment, the loneliness, and the idea that you don't know what comes next. And that's totally normal. But your brain fills the gaps, you know? If I cared this much, they must be so special. If you're so scared to lose them, they must be like so rare. And, you know, like, I guess it comes to that point that you're like, if it feels impossible letting go of them, it must be something so amazing must be happening. But it's not really destiny. It's like attachment. And once your brain decides that something matters, it protects it. If it feels like it could be taken away, it becomes more valuable. You stop seeing the full picture and start seeing highlights. You replay the moments that made you feel calm, like happy, chosen, seen, validated. And you forget how anxious you are. And it's like this thing where when they pull away, you're sad. If they go back, you're happy. And it's like this roller coaster. And it just shows how much of a emotional energy it's taking just to stay okay. And the thing about it is that brain loves certainty. It would rather tell you this is it than maybe there's more out there and I don't know yet. Uncertainty feels dangerous to the nervous system, so your brain picks a story and clings to it. And that's why it's impossible to imagine anyone else. It's not because they don't actually exist, but because your brain hasn't attached so anyone else yet. And if you don't figure it out, you probably won't see outside of the picture. And, you know, it's very important that we realize what's your type of attachment, because it's really dependent on the person. You know, there's different. There's 4. And when I clicked that, oh, this is how I react, I guess I was less terrified, because I guess I was more sure of what I was feeling, and I was in a point where, I told myself that someone was really important because what we had was special and I would never find it again. But that wasn't really the truth. I was just like anxiously attached. And basically, what happens is that when you find, well, in my case, I was a really low place in my life. Then someone came into it and I didn't feel grounded. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel secure. And they gave me all that security, that grounding, that confidence. And they became the person to fill that gap. And I got attached to him. So whenever he wasn't around, the uncertainty would come and I would just need them, And this is not healthy because you're not afraid to lose them. You're afraid to lose how they make you feel. They don't become humans anymore. They just become like emotional fillers. And it's not healthy for you and for them because then you end up being toxic towards them and they become toxic towards you. And it's a never-ending cycle. Your brain will shape the reality around that fear. And you have to know that if you let go, you won't fall apart, even if your brain tells you otherwise. But that's just what the brain does best. But yeah, it might hurt temporarily, but not always. And yeah, it's pretty common to, confuse the attachment with love or romance. But it really is just your nervous system saying, please don't take this away yet. I don't feel ready. And like I said, we all attach differently. Some people attach in a way that feels steady. They care deeply, but they don't lose themselves. They miss people, but they don't spiral if someone or something ends. It hurts, but they still recognize themselves in the mirror. Letting go feels like sad, but it makes sense. You're just accepting. And this is called the secure attachment, Very good, to feel that type of attachment. Then on the other side, there's others that attach in a way that feels louder, Things are good, they feel calm and grounded. And when things feels off, everything feels off. They reread texts, overthink pauses, their mood starts depending on how close or distant the other person feels that day. And losing them doesn't just feel sad, it feels destabilizing, like someone pulled the ground from under you. And I feel like I have come to realize that this is me. I feel like when something feels off, like my whole world is like, what is going on? I'm not used to like the uncertain, or like my brain will just trick me into like, what? This is louder than it should be. Just like filling the gaps, like convincing myself that whatever is going on is bigger than it actually is. And this is the anxious attachment, and I'm pretty sure this is very common to a lot of people. There's a background to every type of attachment, which I will eventually come to explain. But there's then people who attach immediately and then they feel trapped by it. It's exciting at first, but when things get deeper, something shifts. It starts to feel too heavy, too close, too intense. It feels like it'll make you lose your identity. So pulling away feels like relief, even if you still care underneath. It's like you do what feels better just to not feel very attached or committed. This is the avoidant attachment. And there's the fourth one, which some people feel all of that at once. They want closeness, but then it scares them. They pull people in, then they push them away, they miss them, then they go numb. And it's a connection that feels intense and confusing and exhausting. This is people with a mixed attachment. And it doesn't mean that you loved wrong, that you're broken, that your nervous system is messed up. It just means that it learned a certain way to protect you. And like I said, it has a lot of background, like the way you were raised, your experiences in childhood. But, Everything has like a way to rationalize it and own it instead of it owning you and draining you when you're like consumed by the way that you attach to people. And here's a part that I really wish more people talked about, is that your brain mixes pain with meaning. Like, if you let go, your brain will tell you that if it was hard, then it must have been important. If you miss them badly, your brain just tells you that, wow, it must have been like once in a lifetime situation. If you cannot stop thinking about them, it's like they're so special, this is so special. But pain is not proof, and difficulty is not the destiny, like the ultimate destiny. And attachment is not alignment. Like, when I finally started letting go of someone, it didn't happen because I hated them or that something dramatic happened. It happened slowly. And that's the thing. You know, if you force yourself to feel a certain way about someone so that you don't feel like drawn towards them, you will not feel peace. When you do things slowly and you allow the feeling to settle, that's when you will notice like how much of your peace depended on him and how you can reassure yourself. You know, sometimes we need a lot of reassurance from people, and then we become scared of being by ourselves, and it's uncomfortable and it's painful and it's sad, because it's way easier to say that someone is everything than to say I'm relying on them to feel okay, because you don't even realize it, you know. It's just your brain doing like all of these like dances with the chemicals, and that's why it's so hard. It means that you have to face yourself, and you have to accept the non-validation that you will experience. The sense of security will be gone, and that's okay. That's what you need, you know. For a time, your brain might bring up memories, the what ifs, the fantasies. You'll be wondering, what if I made a mistake? What if this was the best that I'll truly ever get, you know? But through routine, you kick back into your body, you build your life. Something shifts, you know? And then you start feeling okay again without people that you once depended on. And your nervous system finally relaxes. It's just clarity, indifference. And you know, you can see the good parts. You could also see that it generally wasn't a once in a lifetime experience. They're not irreplaceable, but that's what your brain makes people into, you know? That's just how your brain thinks that it's protecting you. But that's the thing about letting go, you know? It doesn't really happen by doing the opposite thing. You don't need to force yourself to be over it. It's not linear, you know. You still think about people constantly. You go back to it. One day you're happy, the next day you're not. And yeah. It also comes down to, depending on your type of attachment, what's the best way to letting go of someone. And if you attach anxiously, I would say that, like I said, I feel like I'm going back and forward with the same idea, but letting go doesn't start with moving on. It starts by regulating your body. If you attach anxiously, your brain learns that closeness equals safety. So when you lose that connection, your body panics before your mind can catch up. So you replay conversations, you idolize the good moments, and trying to logic your way out doesn't really work in the moment. But what can help you is build predictable routines: waking up, meals, movement, working out, regulating physically like walking, exercising, doing cardio, Pilates, and limiting the rumination instead of eliminating, just grounding it instead of seeking that reassurance. Don't ask yourself, why am I not enough? To what helped me calm down when I was with them, and you realize that it was never really about them, it was you. If you attach avoidantly, letting go doesn't mean shutting feelings down even harder. What you do is that your nervous system associates closeness with pressure. The distance feels like relief, so when something ends, you might feel fine until it sneaks up on you later. So what keeps you stuck is the minimizing what it meant, saying busy, telling yourself that it didn't matter. But what will actually help is letting yourself feel the sadness, even if it's small. Noticing the small reactions, don't overanalyze them though, and stay present instead of distracting immediately. You do not need to drown in the feelings because I know it feels heavy. Just don't run from them. If you're fearful, then what happens is that it's not about the intensity, it's about consistency. Your nervous system is used to emotional highs and lows, push-pull relief, then panic. And that's why dramatic endings or sudden reconnections feel tempting, but they're just keeping the loop alive. Reopening the connection just to check doesn't help, not going back for relief, but clearing boundaries, directioning, even if it feels boring, predictable self-care and structure, like for the anxious attachment. And this safety comes from steadiness, not passion. And at the end of the day, letting go happens when your body learns that calm doesn't need empty. If you attach more securely, then it probably is easier for you, because it's not about the speed but about the meaning. You tolerate loss better than most, but you might rush past grief because you're okay. You can help yourself at letting the sadness be real instead of functional, naming what the relationship gave you and cost you, and integrating it in your life, not skipping over it or dismissing it. I feel like when you're strong, you kind of convince yourself that you need to be it, especially for this situation, but you just need honesty. And these questions really help you in the moment, and when it comes to regulating things for yourself, what did this person regulate for me? The calmness, feeling chosen, validation, excitement, not feeling alone. Because you're not attached to the person, you're attached to the feeling and the state that they helped you access. And letting go becomes possible when you rebuild that state elsewhere, when you focus on yourself. That's when letting go is not scary, because finally you can face yourself and give yourself what you think that other people can give you. So it's not about forgetting, not indifference, or saying it didn't matter. It's about reclaiming your emotional regulation, because that's for yourself. It's not about the person or the attachment. Your nervous system won't need to force it, erase it, but just to release that tension. So that's it. That's my little rant. I hope you liked it. Thank you so much for keeping in tune. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm Mexican. Bye.